Hey guys, it's Amber, and I'm getting ready to work on my reason why page. So this is my copy, or my version I should say, of a free download from Ellie Edwards. All I really did was change where they had the December daily to a different font that was a little bit bolder, to kind of match the fonts in the kit this year. I changed the background paper, and I changed this to green instead of black. So the format and design is the same. Added my journaling, and then what I want to do is just add some pictures of the 5 of us and the kitties, which is going to be 5 pictures across. What I was really inspired originally to do was to use some of these little guys here. The problem is I couldn't properly reformat this to get a 5th one in there, and I really wanted to use them. They were a perfect size, so they would have stuck over a little bit. And these are Studio Calico ones that I have a multitude of colors. And I also have the December daily ones with prints and stuff. But I was having a hard time deciding on a pattern. I didn't want to limit it to just the 4 of us. What I want to do is be able to cut them out, kind of put them in different directions, and be able to overlap them a little bit. So today's the 3rd, and they released the main kit pattern papers digitally, which I had actually emailed customer service and asked them to do, which was really awesome. So what I did here is I created, until I'm sure exactly which patterns I want to use, because I kind of want it to look like a rainbow, like red, red, green. Until I'm sure exactly which patterns, I printed out several options. Like I'm not like this might look good on there, or it might be too much of that pattern, so I wasn't sure. So I'm gonna cut those out. I'm gonna use my craft knife to cut out the centers. What I could have done was cropped these photos in here and printed them, but this would be like the flattest layout ever. So my plan is to layer the photos. I'm trying to get my new my plan is to layer my photos underneath the little mats, grab my sewing machine, and just stitch around them just for some fun. I was even considering also doing a little bit of messy stitching all the way around the frame just to give it some texture, and then we'll see where we go from there. And if I'm going to add any other embellishments, I'm honestly not sure. I was considering maybe adding one of the plastic hearts, maybe especially that one particularly, because I'm sort of talking about like magic and joy, so I might do something like that just to add a little bit more red onto the page. But what I'll do is go through all the sentiments and see which ones I like best. So step 1 is going to be getting these cropped out, and then the centers cut, taped together, stitched, and then I will put this together. So we'll see how it comes out. Okay guys, so I decided before trimming these out that they would be a little too sensitive if I did that, so I kept them all on the main sheet and then trimmed out all the centers. I would have loved to have done this on my silhouette as like a print and kit, but I had issues with it earlier in the day when I was working on my title page, which you'll see come later, and it wasn't something I was interested in struggling with. So luckily these were pretty, you know, much just all straight lines, and that's all I had to deal with, but it did take some time. But I think it was worth it in the end. So just showing you how I'm cutting out 2 of them, and then I'll move on from there. So now I'm just cropping them down with my trimmer just to get all of them with nice clean edges. The insides were a little bit messy. I did have to go in and trim a little bit with scissors, but overall it went pretty well. So I was pretty happy with how this came out. So just finishing up the last couple there. I think I ended up printing out like 8 options. I only needed 5, but I'm glad that I have a few extras in my stash, and I liked having the opportunity because I did end up changing my mind for one of the patterns. So here I'm just getting the photos trimmed out as well. I struggle with 2x2 inch photos because my guard is 2 inches wide, so I can barely reach them when I'm on the final one, but I had a really hard time getting them to stay flat without it, so I just had to kind of suffer through it. And then I realized they were going behind a photo anyway, the rim of the photo grid there, so I didn't have to worry about it being perfectly cut out, so I just gave up on the last view, which was a lot easier. So I had originally put that floral one, I put the floral one in the middle, but it just it didn't stand out enough on its own because it blended too much in with the pattern, and I didn't want that, even though I just love that pattern. It's like one of my top 2 favorite ones. The other one's that green one on the far right with the florals and the dots and the berries and stuff. It's just so pretty. So I ended up going with the white with the red plus signs, and that was a nice transition between the reds and greens. So just double checking to make sure I'm happy with my decisions there. And then what I'm going to do is just use some photo squares to help tape them down. I was going to use my like 1/4 inch score tape, but I decided that these were enough, especially if I needed to be able to move them around. And there was a couple where I did have to kind of change them a little bit. So I'm not going to show you all of these as well, just kind of, monotonous, but just getting them all trimmed and fixed and ready to go. So the next step is going to be using my sewing machine. I ran 2 messy layers around the outside of that white part of the grid there. Alright guys, how good does this look, right? So fun. Kept it messy, waved in and out on purpose. It got a little wild right there at the end, but luckily not too far out. A little bit of this might get covered with the photos, but really happy with that. There's a little bit of like a drag where you can see like the machine kind of imprinted, but you can barely tell. And then here are the photos. If I had to redo this again, I might just print them on here and then stitch around them. Might be a little easier than all the layers, but it also helps give it some nice texture. So I'm going to get those glued on and see. I'm pretty sure I'm going to put a heart on here and see if there's anything else. Okay guys, I am done with my intro and my reason why I've struggled on what to do this year for this until I finally got some inspiration. So Ashley Horton is on the December daily design team for Ali Edwards. She created something like this where she did florals, and I really loved it, but I didn't really have good florals to use, so I decided to go with stars and snowflakey stars. And this is cut out from the digital paper from the main kit that was just released today. And then this was from the prep party. So what I did for these, because I have none of it on camera, is I sized them down. They were originally 3/4 of an inch wide, and I ended up sizing them smaller. They are now 5/8 inches wide, which made them 3/4 of an inch tall. So printed them all out at that exact same size, and then I just on photo paper, and then I mounted them onto some white printer paper. Sorry, I had a piece go flying earlier and I didn't know where the adhesive went, and I just saw it. So what I did is I took some copy paper and I took some measurements. And what I measured, what I did is I took some copy paper and I measured to where this point went, which in my case is just over 1/2 inch. So I made my paper like it's a little bit bigger than 3/4 of an inch, stuck it down, and then I folded the other half around. And then once I had all these extra little flaps glued down, I put them over top of the piece of twine, and then I used some 1/8 inch line tape. It's really hard to explain, I know, but in other words, took the paper, folded it in half, glued the front half down, trimmed the piece, and then once the other side went over, then I used more tape on that side and basically pinched it around the twine. hopefully that is a little more obvious. So I used more of these tissue paper stars like I used on day 2 to help tie them in. I have wooden stars from Ellie. I've got plastic and paper stars from Ellie's Studio. These are from Felicity Jane, these stitch stars, and then cork stars, I assume from Ellie, that were self-adhesive. So really happy with how that came out. And then you saw me make this. I love what the stitching adds. It's keeping it from being like a totally flat page. And then these are all just glued down flat. I thought I was filming during this part, but it wasn't. And then for this photo, I used some pop dots in the middle and then just regular tape on the sides just to help support it so it could be popped up against the others. And then I used pop dots here for this as well. I like using Gina K because they're nice and low profile. So really, really happy with how this came out. And can't wait to see what it looks like in the album. So it's going to go in front of this, I think. So this will be my title page. My reason why will be across from here. And then my calendar across from day 1, I think. Or do I continue to let that be it? Because that's a lot of weight, but that looks pretty good together. So maybe I'll leave it there for now. It makes like a really nice title page, but what my concern is that the vellum's gonna get warped sitting on top of it in the album. So we'll see. I may end up changing my mind, but there's a lot of pop dots and dimension on here, so it might be better off in the beginning. So anyway, just wanted to say thanks so much for watching, and I will see you for day 3 shortly. Thanks again.